All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for bearing with us through Wednesday afternoon of Amazon Summit. My name is Matt Dreyer. I'm a Senior Director of Product Management for VMware. I've been working on VMware Cloud on AWS since its inception, so that dates back to 2015. And I'm glad to be back on the stage showing you the latest and greatest in the service. And so we're going to focus this conversation around our public sector customers and our solutions that we've built specifically for consumption by public sector, DoD, defense industry, and state and local governments. And so I think we've all seen the massive transformation in IT over the last couple of years, right? You know, COVID literally changed everything overnight. And I think what we are now accelerating into is dealing with sort of the after effects of that transformation and figuring out what our long-term state is actually going to look like. And so our consumers are much more technologically adept than they used to be. They're much more connected. They're much more demanding. And as a result, we've got a lot of pressure on public sector customers, right? We know that we need to become more agile. We know that we need to be more consumption driven. And we know that with the threat environment is also increasing. Ransomware has gone through the roof, largely driven by cryptocurrency and foreign exploit. We've got a whole new set of regulations coming in on the privacy side to make sure that we're keeping personal data private and only accessible to people that need to know. And so this is a really complicated environment, right? The one side you're being asked to go faster and go to the cloud, and at the other end you've got all kinds of regulatory and really serious issues that you've got to deal with as an IT team. And so this really puts us in sort of an interesting position, right? When you take a look at your existing portfolio, the stuff that's running in your existing data centers, you really do have to go through piece by piece and figure out what you're going to do with each of these applications. Where is the new version going to live? Is it going to be deployed in your existing data center? Will you put it out at the edge? Will you put it on one or more clouds? And so this really takes some acute architectural skill and some really deep thinking around going through. And I think the real important part to know here is that there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, right? We can't just take everything to containers. Like we can't just do everything the way that we used to be doing it. You need architectural flexibility to really have the right set of tools and know what you're doing and have the right landing zone as you transform your environment. And so, as I mentioned, for 7 years now, VMware and Amazon have been working very closely together to develop a jointly engineered solution to solve this substrate problem and make it very easy for VMware customers to move their applications to the Amazon cloud. You take the leader in on-prem software, massive installed base of vSphere on-prem. Who here's running vSphere on-prem? Few of you, all of you? That's not a surprise because everybody has VMware somewhere, right? You take this environment and make it operationally consistent and run it on the world's best cloud, and all of a sudden you've got a really nice set of kit to take out to your application owners and solve some really interesting problems. And so on our GovCloud offering, we launched in November of 2018. This followed our commercial offering by 2 years. In February of 2020, we went generally available. We received our FedRAMP high authorization last fall in September. Just a month ago, we received our FedRAMP high JAB authorization. So it's been a remarkable journey. We're basically running an infrastructure as a service on top of an infrastructure as a service in the Amazon cloud. And we're now delivering a massive amount of value. So let's talk a little bit about what this thing actually is. This really is software as a service that allows us to provision infrastructure as a service. It has all of the characteristics that you'd expect from Amazon EC2. Right? We can bill on demand, we can bill in 1-year subscriptions, 3-year subscriptions. It offers a consistent environment between your existing data center and the cloud. and it provides that level of Kanban that you need to run these highly compliant applications. And so, leveraging the shared responsibility model, we're able to take a whole lot of pain out of the IT operations and move your skill set and the value you're delivering higher in the stack. So let's talk a little bit about exactly what this is. And so, as I mentioned before, we view our whole offering as sort of 3 columns. Right? We have an existing installed base of customers that are leveraging vSphere in their on-prem data centers and have been doing so for 20 years. Right? VMware has been made a massive impact on data center operations, has really changed a lot of lives in that realm. We take that same software infrastructure and run it in a VPC in the Amazon cloud. This is incredibly important, right? You would take the exact same hypervisor, the exact same compute virtualization, storage virtualization, and network virtualization, and we instantiate that on AWS bare metal hosts. And so you get single tenancy, nothing shared, you get all the security and the privacy of operating in a VPC, and the best part is you get high-speed, low-latency connectivity into the Amazon set of services. And so you kind of look at this and you say, well, what's that useful for? I very often get into conversations with customers that say, hey, look, I'm just going to cloud, I'm going to refactor everything, and we don't need VMware anymore. And inevitably, 16 months later, I'm back in front of that same customer, and they're like, hey, we just spent millions of dollars, we're way off schedule, and it didn't really work. And so having the flexibility to refactor and modernize your applications at a known and a real pace is of massive advantage. And we'll get into some use cases here in a little bit. But being able to just do basic things like shut down that old data center and get out of the hardware business is an amazing first step towards cloud. So this is new. We have recently received our FedRAMP High JAB authorization. This was granted to us back in April, and we're now up on the FedRAMP marketplace. Even more exciting, within about 7 days of that announcement, DISA came back to us and gave us our provisional authorization for IL5. Now, there are some caveats here. The initial authorization is only for Air Force customers, so if you're a customer of another branch, come see me and call DISA, and we'll drive demand to get this thing widened out. But we're on a very nice path here to support both U.S. military customers and existing customers in the federal space. So with this footprint, we can accommodate pretty much all public sector workload, up until but not including the secret level. And we think that this is a fantastic value for both public sector customers as well as DoD mission owners. So I want to thank the team who's been putting in all the work to get this done. And I think it's going to offer us some very nice opportunities in the future. So there's really no magic in this whole thing. For years and years, customers have been buying vSphere through the 2-tier channel, and this is no different. You'll find our SKUs available on the GSA schedule. We are partnered with a number of fantastic folks. I sat in on a presentation with the guys from SMX yesterday. These are competent practices that can help you, understand your environment and plan a move. And so the existing partner space that we work with has engaged us on the road here as well. So let's get into use cases, right? Without a use case, why does this thing even matter? And so what we see are 5 primary use cases for customers coming to VMware Cloud and for customers coming to VMware Cloud on AWS GovCloud. The first one is around a cloud migration, and this is always event-driven, and the triggers are always around the end of something. So it might be end of support on an old rack, end of contract on a colo, end of London or the English being part of the EU, and so you got to do a deal with the Brexit. So there's always some sort of event, and at the end of that event, somebody has to make a decision of, am I going to renew that thing, or am I going to replace that thing, or am I going to take it to cloud? And odds are, if you take it to cloud or if you take it to VMware Cloud, you're going to be in a much better position. The next use case that we always see is around data center extension, and this is really about geography. I need capacity somewhere where I don't currently have capacity, right? So if you have a big, nice data center sitting here on the East Coast, might not be a bad idea to deploy a secondary site on the West Coast to serve latency issues and other needs. We also see this very popular in disaster recovery, where perhaps you've built a disaster recovery region that doesn't meet a minimum distance. So maybe you're 20 or 30 miles away from your primary. That typically doesn't cut it these days. The next case that we see very frequently is around virtual desktops. VDI in the cloud has become incredibly powerful for remote work, and again, allows you to take advantage of all the cloud economics of being able to scale and right-size those environments for users as they come in. DR, very popular, and application modernization, the stage one of getting off of old hardware, the stage two of starting to transform those services, get some Kafka involved, get a more modern database involved, run Kubernetes on vSphere. These are all very popular use cases. So VMware Cloud on AWS is available pretty much in every region that Amazon is available in. We track the Amazon region rollout very carefully, and we deploy our service in those regions pretty much as soon as we see demand. Of course, the ones that we think are important for this audience are US East and US West. We've had the US West offering now for a couple of years. We were authorized for US East around Christmas time, and so these are two fantastic locations available for public sector workload. Let's dig in a little bit into the guts of this thing. So this is the one you want to take a picture of, because this articulates it very well. So again, think of this as infrastructure on demand, delivered in a very SaaS-like way. It's very much consistent with how your experience is today with the Amazon console. So we start with the core components of the VMware software stack. Again, this is vSphere, vCenter, vSAN, and NSX. Same kit that you're running on-prem today. We deploy that on bare metal EC2 hosts. We have two host types available, i3 and i3EN. That is deployed within a separate account and a separate VPC, so you are a single tenant within that bubble. VMware is responsible for all of the lifecycle management. We are responsible for all of the patch and upgrade of vSphere and ESXi. We're responsible for replacing failed hosts. We're responsible for scaling up and scaling it down those SDDCs, so literally infrastructure as a service, but consistent with the same stuff that you're running on-prem. Our GovCloud offer is supported by US citizens on US soil. To get in touch with them, you pick up the phone and call 1-800 VMware GovCloud, and they'll be happy to troubleshoot and support with you. Most of our customers just use the self-service web console and are very effective that way. Let's go through a couple of case studies. The first one here is around the College of New Jersey, and this is a pretty typical one. And again, this is a sort of an event-driven data center migration. Here's a customer that had a choice of replacing an existing rack and refreshing their data center, and instead of doing that, they moved that workload to VMware Cloud on AWS. The resulting savings here, $200,000 annually. Annual savings, which is another nice proof point. Not everything in cloud has to be huge, right? We've got a whole bunch of customers and a whole bunch of workload that's sitting out there on 3, 4, 5 host little server clusters. All of that is target for going to the cloud and target for getting out of the hardware business, right? No more replacing fan trays, no more replacing failed drives, just operate the virtual machines. Another one, I would love to put the name of the customer on here, but I can't. But this was absolutely sort of life-changing. When COVID first broke out, we were all locked down, right, including the federal government. And on one frantic Thursday, we took a call from a very important US government agency, and they said, hey, look, we, like everybody else, are locked down. We need to get 2,000 remote workers online on Monday. What can you do? And so we brought in our specialists. We booted an SDDC, a 3-host SDDC on Friday. They started bringing up the Horizon, the VDI environment over the weekend. Within 2 weeks, they had a 29-host cluster built up, and we're supporting 1,700 remote workers. This is amazing. The same customer doing the same sort of stuff on-prem would have taken months. At that point in time, you couldn't even get hardware. And so this was really a massive demonstration of both agility and solving a very pressing problem. And so we've got dozens of cases like this, but this is sort of the power of blending that familiarity and the software that you're already running on-prem with the agility of deploying it in the public cloud. Let's dive in a little bit more on the technical side. We want to talk a little bit more about our 2 host types. So again, this is powered by Amazon EC2 bare metal, which was really an innovation. If you look back, when we started this program, there was no such thing as bare metal. If you went to the cloud, you were getting virtual machine instances. And so that was one of the big business innovations that VMware and Amazon did together, was this invention of bare metal hosts, which really unlocked the ability for us to deploy our hypervisor and bring a new set of economics into the cloud. And so we have 2 host types. We have the i3.metal, which is sort of our cheap and easy host. And then we have the big brother, which is the i3EN. So these are 2 different looking hosts. You can see quite a bit more beef on the i3EN size. There's also something special about the i3EN. So i3EN is built on the Amazon Nitro architecture, which gives us a very key ingredient, which is NIC level encryption. So if you've gone through FedRAMP and are familiar with SC08, you will come quickly to learn that every packet on every wire must be encrypted, otherwise you will not pass FedRAMP High. And so with the Amazon Nitro architecture and the NIC level encryption, we're able to meet SC08 and make sure that every packet on every wire is encrypted, and is again providing both a very hardened level of security as well as additional performance for these applications. I had intended on doing a demo, and I ran out of time to record my demo, so you're getting a screenshot instead. I apologize. And so this is what this thing actually looks like. So it's software as a service. So once you go through the onboarding process, which is pretty simple, you go create an account on AWS GovCloud, and then you work with our customer success folks to boot an org in the VMware Cloud Console. And from here, it's all on demand. Right? And so what you see here is I have 2 SDDCs running. I have one on the left that's called dev test, and I have another one on the right that's called production SDDC. You can see the one on the left is deployed in US East, the one on the right is deployed on US West. To make these, all I do is I click the button that says create SDDC. After I click that button and fill out a little form, it takes 2 hours. We provision and bring up the full cluster with the full VMware software stack in 2 hours, which is amazing, right? You can't fill out an order form for hardware in 2 hours in most companies, right? Then the added benefit is once this is instantiated, if you want to scale up or scale down, add host is only 10 minutes. And so if I want to take this from 3 hosts to 4 hosts or 1 host to 2 hosts, I click add host, and the environment will scale up in 10 minutes. We also have a service called Autoscaler that will automatically size these environments based on the workload that's running in them. So if you turn on this feature and you have a spike in usage, we will automatically scale out and add hosts to the SDDC. When the load goes back down, we'll automatically shrink that back around. And so very user-friendly, very self-service manner for deploying this infrastructure. So it's not a whole bunch of Jira tickets or Rally tickets or whatever. It's literally infrastructure on demand. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the economics of this thing. So as I mentioned, one of the innovations that came out of this is bare metal. And I want to show you what bare metal does in the cloud, because this is kind of amazing. So as I mentioned, VMware has been selling hypervisors for over 20 years, right? We are the known leader of virtualization, and we really have changed the data center. And with bare metal from Amazon, we've changed the economics of this one more time. So I wanted to show you a couple of different cost lines. The people that do pricing and packaging at VMware are literally MIT trained economists, and so like the math here is good. So what we've done here is we've taken the data that we see from our on-prem customers and we've extruded that out over a price curve. And so an average VMware customer is running about 9 VMs per compute core. If you don't know what that means, it doesn't matter. It's basically the gold line on top. So if you go buy hardware from your favorite vendor and put sort of a reasonable number of virtual machines on there, you'll end up paying about 10 cents per VM per hour in an on-prem environment. By eliminating hardware from the equation, you now start following the blue curve. And so by moving out of that physical domain, the power, the cooling, the fan trays, all that, you drop your price curve down to curve number 1. So that is the impact of just running VMware on bare metal in Amazon. There's something else that's very interesting that happens here though. Because this is bare metal, you, the customer, get to choose how heavily you load those SDDCs. So you're no longer purchasing on a per VM basis, you're purchasing on a per physical server basis. So if you want to run this environment hot and put a boatload of virtual machines in there, you can actually beat Amazon pricing. So if you load these virtual machines up and run like dense VDI deployments, the economics actually get better, again, thanks to bare metal. Let's do another view of this. The other thing that we have taken a close look at is the cost and the benefit of doing a migration. Doing cloud migrations is nothing new. Customers have been doing this for 10 years, but the conversation typically goes something like this. How many VMs do you have? We're going to charge you $1,000 per VM, and we're going to schedule this thing out, and maybe it's going to take you a year or two to get all that to the cloud. Because we're running the same software stack on-prem and in the cloud, there's no refactoring. We're not moving to a different hypervisor. We're not moving your VMs to a different operating system. We are literally lifting and shifting. On big customers, we've actually done this over a weekend. One of our biggest customers in the financial services industry moved 1,000 hosts in less than 6 months. 1,000 hosts, right? That's 20 racks of compute that all went to the cloud in 6 months, which is amazing. So by taking all of the variables out of the equation, by keeping the hypervisor consistent, keeping those virtual machines whole, you avoid this migration bubble and all of the dangers that come with a botched project. We're literally picking up and lifting and shifting. So 46% faster migrations, and about a 50% cost savings by eliminating all the manual work. And so much cheaper than operating on-prem by moving to an on-demand consumption model, much lower risk and much cheaper migrations by leveraging the VMware Cloud and AWS service. Okay, so let's start wrapping up here. The things I want you to go away with after listening to this talk. VMware Cloud and AWS has now achieved both FedRAMP High and DoD IL5 authorization. We can run pretty much any workload in the public sector today. This is the best platform and the easiest migration experience by far. You'll find, again, a million ways to move virtual machines to the cloud. This is the easy button. And finally, this provides consistent infrastructure. There's no retraining. There's no reskilling. Literally, the people that you have on staff today running vCenter, running Power CLI scripts, all that stuff comes with you. There's literally no new skill that's required here to operate in VMware Cloud on AWS. One more little thing, we got a coupon for you. I don't know if your coupon clippers, but 15% off on i3 hosts. This is for new customers. We are working on additional promotions, but we think this one's pretty compelling. Everybody likes to see stuff on sale. So with that, thank you for your time. If you need to reach me, I'm available live and online. Because we were a little bit time constrained, I'll ask to take questions either at the side of the stage or out back. So thank you, enjoy the rest of AWS Summit, and thank you for coming.